Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope all of you are having a lovely Wednesday as we get things kicked off here and we make sure I got my days right. I don't. It's Thursday. Wow, I am so behind the times. Sorry about that, folks. So, welcome into the Computer America Show nonetheless. And, well, we have a great show planned for you today because we have a company, they've been on the show once before, but we have someone new, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And, you know, we had a lot of great response from the previous one. So we are going to be talking to Voices.com, and they're a great service that kind of, let's see, to draw an analogy, you know, longtime listeners of the show, a while ago we had a company on that did the same thing for artists, for like logo design and things like that, where pretty much you put in bids and you take jobs, and it's a kind of a job board. It's you know, we're going to get into the details, and it's, you know, much cooler than that. But yeah, for emerging voice actors and even professionals who've been in there for a long time, this is a great way to, you know, kind of have the jobs come to you and you find people and really start building yourself up as, you know, as someone with some serious experience. So again, we'll be talking about, you know, what you can do on the service and more. But before we do that, a few things, including computeramerica.com. That is the place where you will find everything from a link to our guest website, to any articles that we do later on in the program, any videos or things that we may mention, all of that. So if you're driving, if you're busy, if you're doing something after the show, check it all out. It's all in one place. So if you want to, you know, explore a little bit more after the show, we have you covered. Also, while you're there, be sure to check out the social media contest, which every single Friday, so every single, well, you know, tomorrow at least, we will be giving away a prize from Logitech. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we will read your name live on the air. That's right. And of course we'll get that shipped out to you right after you win. But you can't win if you don't enter, and entering completely free, very easy to do. So with that being said, last thing is the video portion where you can watch Computer America, not just listen. Completely optional. We try to optimize obviously for the radio, as we are a radio show, but it's just another way to experience the program. So I think that's just about everything that I needed to cover, and I think we're going to just jump right into our interview today. So again, Voices.com, they are the world's largest online marketplace for voice talent, and I'm really happy to have them on. Joining us is Stephanie Ciccarelli. She is the Chief Brand Officer and co-founder of Voices.com. Stephanie, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Ben. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. No, this is great. As I said, you've you know, Voices.com had been on once before, and it was such an interesting idea because, again, you know, it's not something that I think a lot of people think about in their day-to-day lives, in that, you know, if you are working as a car mechanic, you know, odds are if you're just a car mechanic, you don't need voiceovers in your life. But in a lot of different fields, the first time that you think about one, it's kind of daunting to really think, you know, do I ask friends? Do I ask family? Do I ask completely untrained completely untrained people to do some kind of voiceover work for, you know, just about any kind of work? It can be very confusing. So it's something that you don't think about until you really have to. And that kind of leads me into my first question, which is, if most people don't think about how to do this, then how did you and your husband come up with the idea for Voices.com to, you know, kind of get this started? Because, you know, it's a pretty unorthodox, yet, you know, after you use the service, makes a lot of sense. So how did you come up with the idea?
Well, I think we have to go all the way back to when I was in university. So I have a degree in voice and music. And when I was at the school, part of what I did on the Students' Council was help to connect other people. So I was called the Gigs Commissioner. And a gig, if you're into music, if maybe you're a musician, you know that a gig is work, right? Everyone wants to get some work. So as I was in this role in the Students' Council, helping my peers get work, I think I developed this real desire to help others to find employment. And so when David and I met, which was also when I was in university, I needed to make a demo. As a singer, I needed to have something that could showcase what I could do. So I didn't have to sing the Ave Maria for everybody that I saw. They could just listen to a recording of it, and if they wanted to have it at their wedding, for instance. So, along the way, a bit of voice work did come into play. So David has a recording studio, and for anyone who listened to that other interview, then you know our story. But to explain that, we met because there was a newspaper article about David, and my mother had cut it out for me to find, and she just left it in my room. She knew that I needed to make a demo, and I thought, well, why not reach out to this guy? So long story short, when we started working together, other people who also saw that article that was written about him would ask for voiceover work to be done by a studio, and he basically knew one female voice artist that he thought could do it. So he called me in, and that began kind of our journey into the world of voiceover, without really being the hub that we are now. Like, we were more or less producer and voice artist, and we did that for, I would say, just about a year or so, probably a little less than that.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, we started to realize, wait a minute, there's all these people who want to hire, me, but I can't do all the voices that they need. I certainly don't sound like I can, I don't sound like a 5-year-old Scottish boy, for instance, and I'm sure we'll all agree on that. I also don't know how to speak Spanish fluently. So when people had needs that we couldn't fulfill, that was a bit of a tricky spot to be in. Now, on the other side of all this, of course, there's that demand, people wanting the voiceover recorded, but then there's also kind of the supply side, right? So as we began to rank higher and higher in the search engines, and, for voiceover-related terms and recording, audio branding, that sort of thing, other voice talent would find the website, and inevitably they'd see my name on there with a sample of my voice and say, how can I get on there? I would love to be listed on your website. So after probably 15, 20 people or so who kind of gave us the pitch of why they ought to be on the site, we started to think, wait a minute, there are so many wonderful, talented people. There's so many people who need to hire just these people. And, we've got a young family now. At this point, we had gotten married. We had, a child and another one on the way. And we were just thinking, this is a lot, But what we really, really, really enjoyed was that connection aspect. So it was the bringing together of the people. Like, we had the skills. We could do everything. But, we've always been big dreamers, always thinking of what is the next thing? How can we best use our skills and our gifts to help others? That's really what's at the heart of why we began the marketplace in the fashion that we did, which was to connect those businesses and brands with professional voice talent. So at that point, we basically stepped outside of that production environment. We did no more paid voiceover ourselves. I certainly haven't done one since then. So that would have been in February 2004 is when we officially said, you know what, this is for other people. This is a platform for the world. And we've just grown, little by little from there. And now today, we're a company with about 100 employees here in our city. We're in, the tech space, kind of an exciting area to be in for our the City of London. And now, instead of those 10, 15, 20 some odd voice artists on the website, there are upwards of 200,000 voice artists on the website.
Right.
And we have clients who are serving, we're serving people in 139 countries, and there's 100 different languages going on. And we most recently just got an investment from Morgan Stanley Investment Capital. Oh, sorry, can you edit this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we're off show, but please go ahead.
Yeah. And just recently, we've got some big news. We got investment from Morgan Stanley Expansion Capital, and
Right?
we've also acquired kind of another website, a business within our space that is complementary to what we're doing now. So it's just so exciting to see we're two people at a kitchen table and a napkin, and a lot of hope and just a picture of where they wanted to go could go when you put your mind to something, and when you believe in yourself and you have a group of people around you who are also very supportive.
That is a much more interesting story than we usually hear because, not knocking it, but nowadays we hear a lot of, we went out to some angel investors and we did some pitching, got $500 billion to start a small company, and it's like, yeah, I get it. I'm glad that you could start your small company, but with enough, if you throw enough money at anything, I mean, it's gonna stick somehow in the marketplace. But no, so great story, of course. And I do not, knock you at all for taking a step back from the voiceover work because, again, 200,000 different voice actors, kind of pushing, trying to find their voice. It's, if you want to be the gig manager, 200,000 people, that would be a full-time job if you tried to, be more hands-on. So obviously this marketplace, a great idea. And
Yeah, we just saw it as like
go ahead.
I just want to say we saw it as a conflict of interest to take work that came on our own website that we technically were, having people subscribe to have profiles and to rank higher in search and all these things. So that's, one of the parts of
That too.
stepping away was,
Yeah.
making room for others, but also making sure that we could stand by, just feeling like this is for others now, and we're here to play a supporting role. But what we were really good at was marketing and telling stories and helping other people to connect and to find ways to create value and just amazing work for other people.
And just real quick for any listeners out there who may be wondering, voiceover work for television and things like that makes a lot of sense. But if you go on over to voices.com, you see a lot of websites that, Shopify, maybe GoDaddy, which, they do have online commercials, or I'm sorry, television commercials. But I mean, are television ads all you do? What did you find were some of the emerging jobs that people were really looking to fill? Because again, there can only be so many television commercials out there.
Oh, for sure. So TV and radio are probably the most obvious when it comes to voiceover, that and animated film. People think, oh, voices are only in these areas, but, ha ha ha. People don't notice them, which is hilarious in certain ways, but it means that they're doing a good job. The voiceover talent shouldn't be obvious. So there are a lot of places where voices occur, where you'll hear something, but you're not thinking about it. So the telephone, for instance, you might hear someone saying, thank you for calling this and that. For this, press 1. For that, press 2. Like you'll have different voicemail and auto attendants and IVRs, all these things. And then you might step into an elevator and says, second floor, going down. And you don't think about it, right? Or you've
Right.
got your video games, any e-learning, training modules, business. Like one of the biggest areas for us in the work that we procure for our talent is in the business field. So it's not necessarily the television commercials because there are only so many of those. And certainly the website that we acquired, the company we acquired, VoiceBank, that's what their bread and butter kind of is. Like that's the agency space where you've got a lot of union talent represented there, and they're doing the big Super Bowl commercials. They're doing all kinds of other things, trailers for movies. But that space is not very big so far as the percentage of work. Like it pays a lot of money, but it's not, like there's only so much of it to go around, if you know
Right.
what I mean, right? But then you could be booking web videos, like 60-second, maybe a 3-minute explainer video, or a Kickstarter campaign, or some kind of a promo for something, or maybe audiobooks. I'm sure there are a lot of people listening right now who have a podcast they listen to. Obviously, this is an audio medium, so radio, podcast, or audiobooks themselves. It's just like whenever there's a new technology that comes out, Ben, like we are poised to be a voice for it. So the work in kind of the space in new media
Mm-hmm.
is growing a lot. There's a lot in video. So when you're on YouTube and you watch those advertisements that air before the content that you like to watch, if it's a very popular video, for instance, then that's an opportunity for a voiceover because you'll have
Right.
someone narrating there. But there's just so many wonderful and unique ways that the voice does enter into your world. Like just think of Siri or any other kind of virtual assistant that you might have, Alexa, any number of these voices. Like that's actual work that someone did, be it to provide voice for text-to-speech and artificial intelligence applications. It's really limitless so
And
far as
right.
what voice can be used for now.
Right. And I guess there you really start to see the need for, again, a service such as yours, because you don't want to go through a large you know brand, a large brand, if you just need a 1 minute YouTube video with some voice acting. I mean, you don't want to go through agent after agent and the hiring process, when you could just post a gig, a job on a site such as voices.com, and kind of just get it done without a lot of hassle. So yeah, obviously it makes a lot of sense. Let's go back to the beginning of voices.com, and we have a question here about how did you initially brand the company? Because again, you said that what you started out as was not how you ended up at voices.com. I mean, was there anything that you felt like you did right and then you kind of changed it to evolve into voices.com?
Well, I think that what we did right was to focus on the customer. So
Right.
we've always been really excited about helping people. Just could you rephrase the question? Sorry,
Yeah,
just want to
yeah,
make
no,
sure
no.
I get it.
It was here. How did you initially brand the company? And I apologize if you kind of cover that with your origin story a bit earlier, but yeah, actually now that I think about it, it may be referring to just doing voiceover work, and you had like a dozen people, and then obviously you transformed. Actually, let's go ahead and go over to and again, I apologize for kind of jumping everywhere, but we did interview voices.com about 6 months ago. Please go back and check that out with with your husband. And but this interview, I kind of wanted to focus more on becoming a voice talent. We have many people that call into the show asking if they would if they could do some work for us and things like that. I mean, we get it all the time because I think it's hard to kind of get your start out there in the world of voice acting. When you have no experience or nothing to put on a resume, no one is really that interested. So obviously something like you could kind of build up your portfolio using something like this. Let's talk about in the context of someone who wants to maybe do some voiceover work or put up a job. Can you tell us a bit about storytelling in the context of branding? Because just having, putting up the right job and then also being able to fill out that job correctly are hugely important. Can you talk about storytelling?
Sure. So every brand has a story to tell, and they might not realize they do, but they do. And every company has a brand, and that they also may not realize, but you do. So I think one of the most important things to think about before you decide to do a commercial or write scripts around even your telephone system is to really think about your company and who you are and what you stand for and the things that make you unique, right? What are your value propositions? How is it that you connect with your customers? What's your personality like? Thinking about your company or your business as a person is really helpful because then you can start to think of all of those qualities that I had mentioned before. Like, are you a friendly brand, for instance, or are you like hip? And are you a little edgy, perhaps? You have to know how that is because it really will determine how your brand voice comes across. And so the company culture usually dictates what the brand will be like unless the brand has helped to shape the company culture. It really depends on, I guess, on if the founders are still there or all these other little things to consider here. But the most important thing is that you know your brand voice and that it is true to who you are and it reflects how you serve those customers and it's consistent. So When you go to post a job, what you want to do when finding somebody to actually embody those traits, like you have to tell them what they are. Voice talent want to please you. They want to make sure that they're reading the script exactly as you would like, because of course they want to book the job, right? So, the more detail that a client would give to a voice actor, the better. You want to give creative direction. So you might say, we would like you to sound friendly, bubbly, chipper, whatnot. You might even give a character archetype. So you could say, we want you to sound like that person that we all can relate to. Maybe it's the mom with 3 kids under the age of 4. Right? Like, someone, then all of a sudden you've got a picture of who that person is in your head, and you're like, oh my gosh, like she's probably strapped for time. She's like, juggling all these things. She might be a little flustered, or, she's trying to find a way to kind of just get through the day. Like if you're that character, if you can tell the voice actor who you want to be in that script, that is, then it helps them a lot. But in order for you to even tell them that, you have to know who your audience is. And that's supremely key to all of this, is that when you're like a voice actor, you can perform a role and you can have all that creative direction that I just said. But if you don't know who you're talking to, then you're kind of stuck. You don't know how to shape those words or to turn the phrase, what tone to use, to do it in an encouraging way, or if you're doing it in kind of a different way, right? Like there's a lot of guesswork that can happen. So a company needs to know their brand, but then they need to know the audience. And then once they know all of those things and they know who that voice artist is supposed to be to those people, they can then inform how that read will come across.
Right. And just to kind of put a name to, one of my personal favorites in that line is there's a company called Cards Against Humanity. They do obviously the card game, very, very popular. But, every time I ever hear, they don't do voiceover work or even commercials, just every time I see something come across from their brand, they're snarky, they're a bit edgy, they're offensive. And, for a card game such as Cards Against Humanity, everything from them matches, I guess, the manner in which their game is played and, how they are as a company. So and it always comes across as really genuine and really endearing, even if they're telling someone to, go away, in a very, kind of serious tone, it still comes across as playful and, very, very, again, endearing to the company. So very, very important to know who you're talking to and how to communicate with them. At voices.com, I mean, you just gave a lot of great information. I hope it's not just here on Computer America. Do you give like, maybe blog posts or, kind of helpful seminars or, video seminars? Like, do you offer any kind of help to either voice actors or people posting the jobs?
Definitely. So on our website at voices.com, there are resources for both clients, those looking to hire the voice actors, and for talent who are looking to develop themselves or to maybe they're professional already. They just want to know how to do this online thing really well, and also further develop their artistic side too. So we have podcasts. We have blogs, there are webinars, videos, all kinds of little goodies that you can find, and certainly customer service can point you in those directions if you would like. We're on social media, so at Voices on Twitter. That's an easy way to find us there. But one tool that I'm really excited about that actually helps people who are hiring the talent, because we certainly have a lot of resources for voice actors, including a book called Voice Acting for Dummies, which my husband and I co-authored with Wiley a number of years ago. But this other resource that I'm referring to is more on the casting side. So, it helps the creative professional, be they someone who's, the head of a marketing department, or maybe they're in an ad agency, or they're, an independent freelancer, they're, a one-man video producer, could be, like that kind of a shop. It helps the creative to better understand how to develop, to stay nourished, if you will, in their professional career. But there's a lot that goes into that creative process that we cover. And it doesn't, it's not exclusive to voiceover, which is great, because that's one thing we've realized about our clients and those who are hiring talent on the site. Sure, there are many, many, many different reasons why you might engage a voice actor in a recording session through the website to deliver their audio and that sort of thing. But, just because there are so many different ways and applications and different kinds of companies who need voice doesn't mean that they are entirely different from each other. There is a common denominator, and that is that they are creative people who tell stories. And so that's why Sound Stories, that's the name of the podcast, it's in iTunes and in Google Play. That's why Sound Stories play such a pivotal role in helping other people who are creators to do what they do better and to love more of what they do.
Very, 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 very cool. And, again, I definitely like when companies kind of branch out and, don't just get so focused on the one service. And the fact that you and your husband both seem very interested in, not just building the platform, but making sure that everyone on the platform is, better off for using it. So, no, absolutely check that out. And, we were just talking about storytelling and why it's important. I mean, can you tell, what value can the aspect of storytelling kind of bring to a brand strategy? Because, do you think it's ever good to maybe switch up storytelling or, trying to go at it with a different angle? Because I think if people kind of go at it and they think they have one story in mind and then they start to see their user base kind of develop, do you think it's ever a good idea to change up your storytelling when it comes to branding yourself?
Well, it can and it can't. I would say that it really depends on how different of a story you're telling and how it will affect those people. So if your audience really, knows you for a certain quality, or they're like, well, I love brand X because they are this, that, and the other. And then if you were to change your tune and suddenly become a different company by all accounts, they might feel a little bit like, whoa, what happened? I feel something
Right.
inconsistent here. Now that's something to think about through all your brand communications, every single touch point that a customer has on the customer journey, be it your social channels, your email campaigns, the way you answer the phone in the office, the different materials that you create to help people in your FAQs, that voice has to be consistent. So I think that you can tell different versions of your story, so you can kind of branch out from what you normally say. You can, of course, have different angles that you share, or with different audiences, you might communicate to them slightly differently. But at the heart of it all, that voice of your brand needs to be consistent, because you don't want someone to feel like they're having an experience that is contrary to what they're expecting with your brand. So a good example of this, and I'm not going to name any names, but
Sure.
let's say you call a prominent company that is in the food and beverage area. So you call them, and all your life you've been watching their commercials, and you're really impressed and all this, but then you hear their voicemail, and it doesn't sound as professional as what you've come to expect in the kind of connections you've made between your heart and your brain about them. And you're like, whoa, that's jarring. Like, I don't know why you didn't sound like you did in your commercial. And it doesn't have to be that it has to sound like the commercial. What it is the essence of that brand, is that soul, that same thing coming through in all of those different parts of your experience and interactions with a brand, right?
Right.
So I think that, you can tell different parts of your story, and certainly at other times over the course of your history, maybe other aspects of what you do, or maybe you want to kind of flip something on its head to see what will happen. Like, you can experiment with that, but don't lose the core of who you are. I think that would be really detrimental, because it looks like it looks like the brand is confused about itself, perhaps, that it isn't sure of how it was before, that maybe even that new way that you're telling the story contradicts something you did in the past, or that it doesn't present it in the same light, and it makes people wonder why it's so different, right? So continuity is very important. But one tip I'd like to give people to think about, and it comes from someone I respect quite a lot. There's a company called StoryBrand, and anyway, Donald Miller teaches that your customer is the hero, and you are there to support them. You're like a guide. So if you always frame your communications and the way that you tell story in that customer journey through the lens of, you know what, I'm going to make my customer feel like they're the one who's the star. The company, we're here to support you. We're here to guide you. We're here to help you. Like, I think that companies that really put the customer first, and not just say that they do, but actually create a culture around the customer and serving them and helping them and positioning them as not a threat to the customer, as in,
Right.
I'm not the hero, you are, because you can't have two heroes in one story,
Absolutely.
right?
And Stephanie, right there, we'll have to stop you. Would you mind staying over just for a few minutes? Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So everyone, we'll be right back. Computer America,
We
just
are
after
all
this.
Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on with Miss Stephanie Ciccarelli. And I apologize. It's just, you get on a roll and you make such good points that I really didn't want to stop you. But we're back. And yeah, we're talking about, maybe changing up your story, and you're saying that's not such a good idea, but maybe, not catering, but personalizing it to regions. And, again, when you poke through voices.com, you find that you do allow people to, maybe check out voice actors based on their dialects, based on their age, based on, just different categories that they can define, and, really find the right voice, because it's, just looking at, and I did notice that, when you go through, all of your voice actors, which is weird because, voice acting is, as you said, it should be best seen, it should best be heard, but never really draw focus to the fact that you're listening to a voice actor. But you kind of have everyone's, selfie, professional picture. You have people's pictures next to their voiceover talent. Was that a conscious decision to, put a face to a voice? Because again, that really doesn't come into play in a lot of voiceover work.
Yeah, well, you're right, Ben. Like, usually it's all about the voice and how someone sounds. And certainly when they're auditioning on voices.com, you don't actually see their face. So, you're just listening to the audio. But what we've also come to realize is that people who want to hire people on the internet are looking for trust. And when you have a picture of someone up there, then you get to know them a little bit. You can see, their eyes, and if they're friendly, they're smiling. Maybe you can think about the real estate market, and a lot of those people in real estate tend to have their pictures on their business cards, for instance, because they want to build that rapport, they want to build trust. And we know for a fact that people are really, really interested and happy to see that there are pictures on the website that the voice talent have put up, because people click on them all the time. Like, it's something that they want to relate to another human being. But you're absolutely right. Like, sometimes people, they can sound differently from how they look or whatnot. So, but what we say to the voice actors is that you're welcome to put up a headshot if you would like, or you could have a representative image of yourself that you can share with others.
Gotcha. So no, and again, just things that you'll notice as you start poking around the website. Let's talk about how things have changed, because I was checking out your different blog posts, and you have thriving the age of the 6-second ad. This is something that's and I know this is voiceover work, but following the trends of advertising and mobile advertising, if you've been paying attention out there in the audience, is that, YouTube and many other video and audio services, they know that it's very jarring to listen to a 30-second ad, a 60-second ad, when you do, when you're listening to songs, watching YouTube videos. They know it's very intrusive, and they know that it's very, can be annoying when you're trying to watch a 1-minute video and there's a 1-minute ad before it. So YouTube especially is trying to condense everything into a 6-second ad that you have to get your message across. And that can be very challenging because it's not a lot of time, but it's just about all the time that you have. So, and Stephanie, could you talk about how things have changed in the past 10 years? And also, like I said, how, how you can really effectively, brand yourself in shorter increments nowadays.
Well, yeah, as you said, like we're going to more of a shorter sort of the time frame is 6 seconds. Like when you think about it, that's really all most people have to give is about 6 seconds before they get distracted and they look at something else. I'm not sure exactly offhand how many seconds it is that a goldfish can pay attention, but humans are not that far off, I'm afraid. So 6 seconds seems to be a goodly amount of time, if you will, to have that there. So we've been watching this too. I know that Adweek was reporting that, and certainly, one of the benefits of having a 6-second ad is that you get to your content faster, and which is what we all want to do ultimately, right? You want to see something, but then you have something of value. Like the people who are creating these ads have to be smarter about what they're doing, about what their stories are. They have to condense them. They have to make it something that will stay with somebody for 6 seconds and make them want to learn more about them after the fact. So, it just plants a seed, so to speak, beforehand. It's not like the 30 or the 60-second ads. These are going to be shorter, but I think that they will be more, better received because that it's only 6 seconds and it's going to be something that you'll find of value or entertaining because they've just cut down their ability to tell a story to 6 seconds, and that is all. So I would think that it's going to challenge a lot of people in advertising. It'll be really exciting to see how that all shapes up over time to see. But, for a viewer, that's great because then you don't have to wait 10 seconds or however long it is to skip an ad. So I think it's a step in the right direction, but certainly other ad lengths are effective. This just happens to be something that we're all going to learn and experience together as we attempt to have more effective advertising.
Right. Yeah. It's not the end all be all. I mean, trends come and go, and you're right. There are different ad lengths. So, but it's definitely a trend that you should definitely take notice of. Let's talk about real quick the voices.com. Since you were on, your husband, he was very optimistic about where voices.com was going. As I understand it, you guys, it have become almost the de facto marketplace for voiceover work. I mean, what kind of growth has voices.com seen in the past year? I mean, between voice actors or people looking for voice actors, I'm guessing things are going well.
Oh yes, most definitely. Like it's exciting because things are going well on any number of levels. So here in town, we have many different jobs that are posted for people who live in the area who would like to apply. So that's exciting to have growth and to fill out our space that we have. We're in a building that is in the heart of our downtown, and it's 45,000 square feet, all on one floor of space. So that's an exciting thing for us. Certainly, the growth that we've enjoyed because of the investment that we receive from Morgan Stanley is opening up more doors to reach other customers around the world and to certainly get our name out in front of more of the people who might not have heard of us before. There's a lot of excitement there. But I think that it's just an exciting time in general for the industry. There's a lot going on. There's technology, as we had mentioned before, new ways of using the voice and experimenting with it. There's a greater need to create voices in voiceovers in multiple languages. So, it's not just something that we're only doing English voiceover work. Like, no, we're actually recording in so many different languages. It's amazing to think of how many people around the world will be influenced, impacted in some positive way by the work that's being done at voices.com. I think that's what is most exciting to me, is to know that we can reach so many millions upon millions of people. We may never meet them. Obviously, we won't meet all of them. But to know that we've made their lives better, that we've educated, entertained them, informed them of something, maybe helped them along the way in a process or a stage of their life, like I can't even imagine just the impact and the influence that we're having, and that is extremely humbling.
No, it's and again, you record one, even something as simple as an answering system. You record it once, and depending on the call volume, you may be talking to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people over the life of one simple recording. It's definitely a big deal. And just kind of speak to I have some personal friends that are kind of looking to get into the space. Is there room for new voice actors, to find work? Because again, it's getting started, I think, is the hardest part for a lot of people. And definitely places like voices.com can, cater to new voice actors, but is there room for new people to join in?
Of course. I'm just thinking, to give you an example, is there room for another hair salon? Yes. Is there room for another baker or another, I don't know, a room for someone else doing something they love and add value and to meet needs? Of course there is. So although there is a lot of competition, you might think in voiceover and voice acting, there's a lot of different voices that are needed. And there's different cycles that we go through in terms of what is trending at the present moment, what voices are most in demand right now, right? Like, you got to think for every voice that's out there, there is a job of some kind. Now, obviously, there are certain, elements that might make it harder for someone to do voiceover. So if they have a speech impediment, that might be a bit tricky, to be able to do the voiceover.
Of course.
In a professional capacity, depending, right? Not that it can't be done. But, there really are very few obstacles, I think, to being able to do voiceover, provided that you have talent. Right? So that you're skilled. You've been told by someone other than your grandma that you're skilled. Somebody in the field maybe has recognized your abilities, a teacher, someone like that. And then another aspect of being a great voice artist is that you have a head for business. So you need to be able to know that this is not just something fun that you're doing. It's actually an area of your life that you're going to dedicate a lot of time, financial resources potentially, because you've got to build a recording studio. It doesn't have to be anything major, but you do need to equip yourself so that you can compete. And you've also got to train, right?
Right.
And lastly, something that you're going to want to have are the technical skills. And I kind of alluded to that when I talked about the recording studio. But, if you've got the ability to perform, you also have a head for business, like you know that you're getting into something that is a business and not just a hobby. And also, if you have the technical skill to be able to record yourself and to kind of get files in a certain shape that you can send them off and help a client to do any number of different projects, then you're well situated to entertain becoming a professional voice actor.
Right. And, all those things, it's actually kind of what I found myself in, getting involved with Computer America. It's not simply, it's not simply just the radio. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of things that you have to do. And, again, it's fun, but it's not all just, the 1 hour that we do here. So very, very good advice. Let's talk about what's next for voices.com, because, it's, I think you found your niche. I think you found your audience. It's obviously going very, very well for you. At the same time, though, people who sit still, that's not going to, evolve the company the way it should go. What do you see as kind of next for voices.com? Are you going to, maybe do, videos of people doing voiceover work, or that's just something I was thinking, that, maybe you do people in front of green screens who would, kind of be the face and the voice. What do you see next for voices.com?
Well, that's a big question because it's a big, bright future, right? A big, bright, shiny tomorrow, as Walt Disney might say. So what I see coming up for Voices.com is that it will be a lot of more of the same in certain ways that, we're able to do what we do with excellence, but now we'll be able to do it on a larger scale. So that's, more customers around the world. Certainly there would be more voice artists and languages that we would be seeking to expand, our current talent pool in, and that would be an interesting thing for us. But we're always keeping our eyes kind of on what technology is doing, right? Like what is new? What are these different ways that we can take advantage of it? How can we make the platform faster, easier to use? Like there's just a lot of focus on usability and customer experience, like understanding how we can help to develop people too. But I think that a lot of what we're focused on right now and can tell you with certainty is that we want to get as many of those amazing, wonderful voiceover jobs posted at voices.com as possible. That's really what the goal and the dream is to be the voice that, the source of most of the voices that you will hear in your day-to-day life.
Right. And no, makes perfect sense. And again, with all the success you're seeing, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more of Voices.com. So yeah, and I think you also answered, kind of where you guys are heading. So with that being said, and I apologize for keeping you over. I mean, this was a very interesting conversation, so I couldn't help myself. But Stephanie, thank you so much. And did we miss anything? And also, where can people go if they want to find out more?
Sure. Well, the obvious place to go would be voices.com. If you want to do something that is really, really awesome and you're in a company, you have a great brand and you want to tell your story, then what you want to do is figure out what you want to do in terms of telling that story next, be it a radio commercial or a video, maybe redoing your phone, and sign up for a client account. Just post that job, get auditions, hear who might represent your brand, and just go with it. Like, don't be afraid to have a brand voice. The other thing I want to encourage people to do is to subscribe to Sound Stories. It'll be awesome for anyone who is a career professional involved in the creative field. It's something that will help you to get through any number of different tasks and give you inspiration, really, to continue to do what you do on a really amazing level.
There you go, and we'll definitely throw a link in the show notes to Sound Stories, and yeah, that's very, very good advice. So, yeah, Stephanie, thank you so much for being on Computer America. This was great. Glad to have you on, and yeah, definitely looking forward to having Voices.com on in the future. But again, everyone, Stephanie Ciccarelli, Chief Brand Officer and co-founder, Voices.com. Stephanie, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ben. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye. All right, everyone, and there she goes. So. Voices.com, check them out. You can, obviously just said it, link in the show notes, but it's pretty simple. And if you are looking to get your start in voiceover work, or you are looking, maybe you're considering, and trust me, I find myself in this situation as well. It's like, oh, do I just get my friend to do it who speaks pretty well? They speak good. They do voiceover work good, probably. Instead of that, Voices.com and, in that kind of service, can really benefit you, for not a lot of money. It can, really, really add that bit of polish to what you're trying to do. So check it out. And there you have it. So with our last remaining, couple minutes, why don't we talk about computer and technology news? And again, this is a segment dedicated wholly and completely to the latest in technology news. So here we go. This brought to you by Fire Dragon Security. All right, everyone. So for our first story, and I really wanted to get this one out here because this is one of the perks of having an Android phone. And, we see year over year, we see new and expansive ways to store data. It's one of the perks, again, of having Android, that you can have expandable media, and you can, buy these micro SD cards that, double the size of the onboard storage of a phone. So if you're watching videos, if you're listening to music and you want to have more than just, 20 movies or more than just, a couple hundred songs, well, hey, you're going to need a micro SD card. Now, the fun thing is SanDisk, one of the industry leaders, has a new micro SD card out. And get this thing's probably bigger than a lot of people's hard drives, where SanDisk unveils the world's largest micro SD card, a 400 gigabyte monster. 400 gigs in a micro SD card. Think about that. So today, SanDisk released the world's highest capacity micro SD card to date with a 400 gig SanDisk micro SD XC Ultra UHS-I card. Really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Not so much. But it's targeted at mobile users who have a lot of data to store on their smartphones, including high-res photos and videos. The card comes about a year after SanDisk previously broke the record by creating a 256 gig micro SD card that was the world's fastest of its size. So now we have the official largest at 400 gigs. It's crazy. They're saying that this time around, the new Class 10 card looks pretty robust. It's water, shock, temperature, and even X-ray proof. Great for, I assume, traveling. All those different locations, and X-ray proof means you can slip it right through the detector. And mobile devices have become the epicenter of our lives, and consumers are now accustomed to using their smartphones for anything from entertainment to business. That would be the Vice President of Research for SanDisk, saying that we are collecting and sharing massive amounts of data on smartphones, drones, tablets, PCs, laptops, and more. What he's saying is, he's saying that we anticipate the storage needs will continue to grow, and he's not wrong. I mean, the more we start talking about 4K, uncompressed, HDR, all these different kinds of data, or file formats, that's kind of long speak for larger data files. And you may think, whoever needs 400 gigs of storage on their phone, and it's going to fill up faster than you think if you start to utilize the latest in content formats. So very, very cool. Western Digital, the company that now owns SanDisk, says it leveraged its proprietary memory technology and design to allow for the increased capacity. And I completely forgot that Western Digital bought SanDisk. And so they said that the new micro SD card is ideal for Android smartphone users, as it can hold up to 40 hours of full HD video. That's a lot of video. And they're saying that the transfer times are fast as well, with 100 megabits per second. Megabytes per second. And that's about 1,200 5 megabyte photos per minute. Not bad. And write speed of about 10 megabytes per second. So 100 read and 10 write. So not half bad. And that the card is also said to load apps faster thanks to the adherence to the A1 app performance class specification. So, this is undoubtedly, or at least you're trying to market it as the epitome for Android devices, and probably your go-to. But, check it out. It's available through, obviously other retailers and SanDisk themselves. The privilege of going to 400 gigabytes in one micro SD card will cost you $250. Crazy. Yeah. So there you have it. $250 later, you have 400 gigs on your phone, and everyone is shocked. Well, I don't know about shocked, but it's definitely a good trend. I mean, obviously it's not a nice round number like 500 gigs that we're used to seeing, or 512, but at the same time, that's still a massive amount of data, and those are the kind of leaps in storage that we're going to need if we're going to keep up with the file formats, because we can't just be using, looking at you, Apple, we can't just be using 32 gigs of storage on a phone with no expandable memory if you're expecting people to have, 4K, and especially because I'm pretty sure the next iPhone's going to have a 4K display. But, you know, you can't expect people to have 4K video and only 32 gigs of onboard storage. That just won't work. So there you have it. SanDisk breaking the memory barrier one chip at a time. All right, so we had a couple of headlines that we really wanted to get to. That was one of them. And another is about AMD. And, you know, just been loving the stuff that's been coming out of AMD lately. They have been knocking it out of the park as it pertains to their Threadripper, their Ryzen. And yeah, you know, super excited. So AMD unveils its cheapest Threadripper CPU yet. Check this out, where the 8-core Ryzen 1900X cost about $550. That's right. So this is their cheapest in their Threadripper lineup, saying that Intel and AMD are duking it out once again to see how many cores they can cram into a single CPU. And that's great news for PC enthusiasts across all budgets. That's right, because when AMD and Intel compete, it's the consumer that benefits from the innovation that falls out from it. And they're saying that professionals likely won't have any qualms dropping $1,000 to $2,000 for the respective top of the lines for the two companies. But thriftier shoppers get more options for less. Where today, AMD rounded out its Threadripper lineup with the 8-core Ryzen 1900X, which will cost about $550. And in comparison, the recently announced 12-core Threadripper sells for about $800. So we went from $800 to $550, but you go from 12-core to 8-core. So obviously, and then above that, you go to the top of the line 16-core, so twice as much for $1,000. There you have it. So the Threadripper 1900X features speeds between 3.8 and 4 gigahertz, and of course, it will be fully unlocked for your overclocking needs. And, you know, hey, I have a 400 gig, 400, wow, that'd be crazy. A 4 gigahertz processor myself, and when I overclocked it, you know, 4.3, 4.5, and everything is running super smoothly. So I'm sure Threadripper is even better at overclocking. And it's saying that for $50 more, the AMD's other 8-core CPU, the 1800X, but it packs in more capabilities for demanding users, where, for example, it supports 4-channel DDR4 RAM instead of just 2 channels. So very important to read the fine lines. And the Threadripper chip also packs in 64 PCIe lanes, which is, you know, when you compare it to the 1800X, 24. So PCIe lanes lets you, you know, obviously attach it to more devices. And, you know, hey, you want to match it up with the motherboard, of course. And there you go. Makes it better suited for cramming in tons of GPUs, as well as for tasks where you need to push lots of data. But still, very, very cool, and glad to see AMD rounding out their offering. Now, if we're super quick about this one, let's see. I believe I had one more story I really wanted to get to. And yeah, you know, let's just do this one. And here we go. This is from Apple, or actually this is from Ars Technica about Apple. But everyone mark your calendars. We're definitely going to be covering it here on Computer America. But September 12th, that's right, Apple will hold its iPhone event. This is coming from Ars Technica, and yeah, it's they have officially sent out their invitation as they normally do, and Apple looking a bit more colorful than usual. You know, if you're watching the video portion, you can see their logo, kind of reminiscent of you know, of the original Macintosh logo. It's you know, definitely not the minimalist, just black. It's not the minimalist, you know, silver or white. Instead, it has blues and orange and reds and, you know, yellows. It's all in there. So they sent it out. Please join us for the first ever event at the Steve Jobs Theater in Cupertino, September 12th, 2017 at 10 a.m. And rumor has it that Apple will debut 3 new iPhone models at this event, including the iPhone 7S, 7S Plus, of course, because, you know, 7 and 7 Plus have been out for a little while, and the showstopper, iPhone 8. So they're going to start teasing iPhone 8 here in a little bit. I'm not so sure about the iPhone 8. but rumors are rumors. It is what it is. And, you know, the article goes into a lot of speculation about what we may see from the next iPhone, but the best way to find out, instead of listening to the rumors, the best way to find out is, of course, checking out the events. And again, Computer America will be covering all of it here on the program. So, with that being said, everyone, we are just about done here on Computer America. Another shout out to Voices.com for joining us and talking with us about their services. And everyone, thank you for joining us here on the program. Happy to have you here. And let's see, tomorrow, joining us on the program, if all things go well, and I see no reason why they wouldn't, D-Link is joining us on the program. And yeah, it's a show about routers. Hey, you know, we love routers. It's we also love, you know, internet connected devices, and D-Link is one of the best in the industry. A great, you know, this is going to be a great interview to kind of put head to head with, you know, Netgear that we just had on the program. So with that being said, check us out tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, and Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. Everyone, have a great day. See you then. Bye bye.